special thing for me to be able to share with you what I've learned over the years from some three pretty great, pretty special leaders that I've had the opportunity to work together with. So, John, first, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. I love what you do. I love the love relationships and data aspect of what you do. Data is so important and so much easier to gather when you have good relationships with people and that data is forthcoming rather than hidden. So I love what you do and I appreciate being invited to share a little bit about my learning journey with you all. And I am going to make sure that I stay within a bit of time here. So I don't want to take up all day. So I'm going to share my screen and get us started. There we go. So as you heard from John, my mission is working together towards a bright future. That is the overarching umbrella for everything that I do and everything that I work with. And I'm pretty fortunate that I get to do that. As John said, editor-in-chief, leader to leader. It's a 17-time Apex award-winning journal founded by Frances Hesselbein in, I believe, 1990. So it's been around for quite a while. I'm also the executive producer of a documentary film about Frances Hesselbein called Defining Moments. And I am thought partner and advisor to a number of clients, including Alan Mulally, the former CEO of Boeing and Ford. So that's a little bit about me. I'll give you this presentation if you like. I can make it available through John. I've got some references in the back that might be fun for you too. So unfortunately, this photo is a little blurry, but it's the best I could find. So I put it in here anyway. These are the three leaders I'm going to talk about today. The one on the left is Marshall Goldsmith. In the middle is Frances Hesselbein, and on the right is Alan Mulally. And this is at an event in 2006 when Frances Hesselbein, as CEO of the Leader to Leader Institute, recognized Alan Mulally as the very first leader of the future. And you'll learn a little bit more about why that is shortly. The first leader that I want to talk about is Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall is the pioneer of 360-degree customized feedback and stakeholder-centered coaching, the process of coaching. He's the world's #1 executive coach and leadership thinker, and he's also a New York Times, Wall Street Journal best-selling author of What Got You Here Won't Get You There, Triggers, Mojo, How Women Rise, and then about 50, I think, other books that he's put together, 35 of which I helped him with, these compilation books. I wanted to talk about what I've learned from each of these leaders and how I've put it together into my own sort of leadership theory going forward. And the first thing I learned from Marshall Goldsmith is that follow-up is everything. And Marshall will tell you that follow-up is everything means as a leader, when you follow up with your stakeholders about changing your behavior, your impact, and whether or not the people around you think you've changed goes up exponentially. And there's a great article and study that was published in 2004, written by Marshall and Howard Morgan. And the study took into account, I think it's 86,000 leaders and organizations about the importance of follow-up. And now, in 20 years later, I believe that number is up to 250,000. So it really verifies and confirms that follow-up is everything in leadership. And for me, follow-up is everything in how I got started with Marshall. In 2000, I had my own little editing and boutique editing company. And I was working with a woman, and she was getting her PhD. And so I helped her with her dissertation. She said I did a great job, and that if I ever wanted to work in books, I should give this guy, Marshall Goldsmith, a call. So this is January 2000. Immediately, I gave him a call. And he answered the phone and he said, "Who's this?" I said, "This is Sarah McArthur." And he said, "How can I help you?" I said, "I would love to work in books. And I was referred to you as somebody who might have some projects." And he said, "Oh, great. Give me a call in July." I'm like, "Okay." So in July, I followed up. I gave him a call. And he said, "Who is this?" And I said, "This is Sarah McArthur. I called you in January. You said give you a call back in July. And I really want to work in books. And I was told you might have some projects." And he said, "Oh, who referred you?" And I said, "Vlasta Doman." He said, "Oh, well, I'm putting together a book and I need some help in this and that. Could you do this?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Great. And who referred you?" And I said, "Vlasta Doman." And he said, "Okay, great. I'll send you the stuff next week and we'll get started." I said, "Do you want to see my resume? Is there anything else that you want to know?" He said, "Nope, nope, that's okay. Vlasta referred you. You're going to be fine. We'll get started." And that began a 20-year relationship, partnership with Marshall. The first 10 years editing and writing, I think, 35 leadership books. And then the next 10 years working on those books, as well as running Marshall Goldsmith's company, coaching company. The next thing I learned from Marshall has to do with his stakeholder-centered coaching. And it's really a sentence that self-awareness has everything to do with others. In fact, it's almost impossible to be self-aware if I don't double check that. I mean, I can be self-aware, but I've got to double check that awareness with somebody else. I may think I'm a horrible listener. And when I check with the people around me, they say, "No, no, Sarah, you're not a horrible listener. You actually talk too much or something. You punish the messenger. Something else may be the problem." So, or the behavior that I want to change. So self-awareness has everything to do with others. And the way to track my progress in how I'm doing in changing my habits or behavior is another thing that I learned from Marshall. And he calls these the daily questions. I've been doing this for 10 or 20 years. It's a 2-minute thing at the end of the day for me. I have a list of the things that I want to work on, be it, I want to read and write today, or I want to talk with my family today, or I want to exercise, and how did I do on each of these things? And I track these on a 1 to 10 scale or on a yes or no. And then I can find a partner to go through this with. So I've had a partner for 20 years that I do this with. And I know that if I hadn't been tracking my progress over the years and I didn't have a partner, I'm pretty sure all those great ideas I had would be into the ether. But because I've been doing this, a lot of things have come to fruition. So those are the things that I learned from Marshall. Second great leader is my friend Frances Hesselbein. Frances is the former CEO, was the former CEO of Girl Scouts of the USA. She was founding editor-in-chief of Leader to Leader journal, and she was a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. She received the Presidential Medal for her work in volunteerism, women's opportunities, and diversity. And the things that I learned from Frances are respect for all people. And that came from, I met Frances through Marshall, and I'd done a number of books. I'd been with Marshall, working with Marshall for a few years. And so I'd read some of Frances's articles, and I decided I wanted to do a book of my own. And that book is called the AMA Handbook of Leadership. And so I asked Marshall Goldsmith and John Baldoni if they would be co-editors with me, and they said sure. And the topic was asking thought leaders, government leaders, corporate leaders, leaders across the sectors, nonprofit leaders in education, military, what the hot topics in their areas were and what they saw for leadership going forward. And so one morning, I've collected all these articles. I'm sitting in my chair super early in the morning, like I like to do, reading and editing these articles that have come in. And I get to Francis's article and read it all the way through. And it is the first article about leadership that ever made me cry. And it made me cry because Francis was writing about respect for all people. And I thought, if Frances can be who she is and lead how she does with respect for all people, so can I. And I had my person to follow. I had my person that was doing exactly what I want to do in the way that I want to do it. So Frances is a pretty was that article was so impactful. And then over the years, we grew closer and closer. And in about 2015 or so, we put a book together, and the book was based on a question. This question: what do you see when you look out the window that's visible but not yet seen by others? Working with Marshall, I would go into New York quite often, and every time I went in, I would try and see Frances. And every time I saw Frances, we would go to lunch, and I would try and take her to this place called the Four Seasons Restaurant, which is a very nice restaurant. So often I wouldn't eat for the rest of the week, but I would definitely, it was worth every hungry moment to take Frances to the Four Seasons. And at lunch, she would always put her hand on my arm, look me right in the eye, and say, what do you see when you look out the window that's visible but not yet seen by others? The first time she asked me that, I just looked at her. I didn't understand. I thought, well, I see that there's communication issues between people and it's causing really big problems in the world. And over the years, she had kept asking, and my answer kept getting more and more formed and more like a vision, purpose. So finally, I had it all down, and I wrote it up in a letter and framed it and gave it to her for her birthday, and she loved it. And then I thought, I've got an answer. I really want to know what other people think. So I asked Frances and Marshall if they would be co-editors with me on this book, Work is Love Made Visible. And we would ask thought leaders, again, across the sectors, what they see when they look out the window that's visible, but not yet seen by others. And so we put the book together, and that became that has become a really powerful way to help people to clarify vision, purpose, and call to service. My third leader that I've gotten to learn so much from is former CEO of Boeing, commercial airplanes, and Ford Motor Company, Alan Mulally. He's also the creator and leader of the Working Together leadership and management system. Alan was recognized by Fortune magazine as one of the world's greatest leaders, number 3 on the list. And he always says, when you said, somebody says, is it okay that you weren't number 1? He says, well, the Pope was number 1, so it's okay. I'm still trying to get to heaven, so it's okay that he goes first. So, a great leader in Alan Mulally, I was introduced to by Marshall and Frances. And when we were putting together the Work is Love Made Visible book, I wanted Alan to contribute an article. And so he read all the other articles and he said, these are fantastic. I just don't know that I have anything to add to these. So at first he regretted. And I, being my relentless self, waited until we have the whole book together. And I thought, okay, he needs to write the foreword because his vision of the world is the overarching view of all of these articles, all of these contributors. Everyone falls into his view. And so we asked him if he would write the foreword. And so he thought about it again. He read the book all the way through again that we had put together. And he said, okay, I'll do it. I would love to answer this question. And I want to read Alan's unique view out the window to you directly from the book. And Alan's unique view out the window, he says, when I look out the window, what do I see that is visible but not yet seen by others? I see talented and motivated people working together for the greater good. I see three elements that are absolutely critical to the true success of any venture, company, product, or life: humility, love, and service. And I see the unique contribution of leaders to hold themselves and their leadership teams responsible and accountable for creating smart and healthy organizations that are delivering value for the greater good. So those are two things that I learned from Alan, and the leader's unique role in working together is no longer, the leader's role is no longer to tell people what to do because the leader knows more than the people who are doing the work. The leader's role now is leading people who probably know more about what they're doing than the leader does. And so he led that way. And I think that's hugely why he's been so successful over the years in the companies that he's led. And I also wanted to share the leader's unique role in holding themselves and their teams accountable to the principles and practices of working together, which are simple. The first is people first, love them up. The second, everyone is included, so stakeholder-centered leadership. Third, compelling vision. Have a compelling vision, a comprehensive strategy, and relentless positive implementation. Clear performance goals, one plan. So often you go into an organization and there's all these plans and nobody really knows what the plan is. One plan. Facts and data. How important, we really love your opinions, and we've got to have the facts and data to make informed decisions. Expect the unexpected and expect to deal with it in a positive way. Everyone knows the plan, the status, and the areas that need special attention. Propose a plan. Have a positive find a way attitude. Respect, listen, help, and appreciate each other. Have emotional resilience. Trust the process and each other. And then have fun, enjoy the journey and each other. And then there's one caveat, which is never a joke at anybody else's expense, because people will go along to get along, but you'll find you're managing a secret because people don't feel they're in an environment where they can share what's really going on. And what does this do? It enables profitable and sustainable growth for all, creating value and growth for all of the stakeholders and the greater good. In the end, what's the moral of the story for me? The moral of the story is that Alan is the leader in Marshall's vision of the stakeholder-centered leader, whose leadership and management system includes all of the stakeholders and helps successful leaders, their teams and organizations, become even more successful using stakeholder-centered coaching. Alan is the leader in Francis's vision of the how to be principles-based inclusive leader of the future, whose leadership and management system enables us all to work together toward a bright future. And then for me, one of the things that I love about Alan is that, similar to Francis, he has respect for all people. He focuses on our talents and our gifts and on including everyone in working together. No matter our background, he sees we have more in common than we're different, and he loves us up, coaching the working together leaders in each and every one of us and facilitating our progress toward creating value for all the stakeholders in the greater good in whatever is our life's purpose. And that, to me, is our way forward. So I know that was probably a lot to take in. It's been a long 30 or 20 or 30-year journey for me learning from these three great leaders. And so I thought, of course, ask yourselves anything you want, talk about anything you want, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. But I love the idea of thinking about in your breakout rooms and maybe talking about what you see when you look out the window that's visible but not yet seen by others. So thank you very much for having me.
Sarah, thank you. That was amazing. I think you probably could have kept going for another hour, and it was fascinating. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to put everyone back into breakout. You can either shout out, you can put your hand up, your virtual hand up, or your real hand if you want to, if you have any questions. And we're going to kick off with you, Dave Fearon.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you. Such nicely thought through points for us to consider. But I have a question. You know Frances, but she was very close to Peter Drucker. And tell us a little bit about your experience of Peter Drucker, because what he has said and written seems to even be more pertinent today than years back when he passed away.
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you for being here. Yeah, Peter Drucker. So a couple of things. One, we just finished the film, and we've been having screenings across the country here over the fall. And one of the screenings, the film is called Defining. It's about Frances Hesselbein, and it's called Defining Moments: The Life and Leadership of Quiet Revolutionary Frances Hesselbein. And a couple of months ago, I got a call from the Drucker School, and we went and had a screening at Claremont in just last month, which was wonderful. And the question, what do you see when you look out the window that's visible but not yet seen by others, was actually from Peter Drucker.
Sounds
And
like it.
Yep, he was in an interview, I think it was with Forbes in maybe the 80s. And when he and Frances were very close, working together at the Girl Scouts, he came in and helped her with the leadership development at the Girl Scouts. And in the interview, the interviewer asked him, how do you always know what's going to happen in business and management? You always know. And he just threw it off and said, I just look out the window and see what's visible but not yet seen by others. And Frances, who a devoted disciple basically of Peter, had really taken to heart his statement, ask, don't tell. And so she would turn everything into a question, including that statement. And that's where that question comes from. What do you see when you look out the window that's visible, but not yet seen by others? That's that partnership of Peter and Frances at work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carol.
I have to ask, Frances's work when she came up with an organization chart that was in a circle has influenced my whole professional career, but I've never seen it done in a large company. Do you have any idea of where that went in her mind or in her actions?
You mean circular management?
Right.
Frances was, after she left Girl Scouts, she, as advisor and speaker in the military and across the sectors, was always sharing about her philosophy of circular leadership and management. And in the film, we discuss her theory quite a bit. To me, her circular management is about being in the center and the information flowing to her as CEO, and then her turning around to serve at that time it was the girls at the Girl Scouts. So she was helping the leaders to serve the girls at the Girl Scouts, and that's how that it was circular. It flowed out and back and out and back. Her recognizing Alan Mulally as the leader of the future. She did that because his system, which I wasn't able to get into today, but his system is a matrix organization,
Yes.
which is, I think it's hard to do, but I think it's easier for people to understand a matrix organization than
Yes.
lead that way than Francis's circular management. We do talk about it in the film, so if you do have an opportunity to see the film, there's quite a bit about it in there.
Well, we've got
The
people here.
interesting thing about that, Sarah, is that Malawi was handpicked by a Ford person who was CEO before him, who was deeply committed to systems thinking. And so that made sense with a quasi-matrix organization. So it all fits. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Carol. So we have a couple of questions in the chat. One, can we have a session viewing of the film?
Oh, let's make that happen, John.
Okay,
Let's do it. Absolutely.
That'd be fun.
And people are wondering if they can have a copy of the article that you spoke about that made you cry.
Absolutely.
I think we can
Make
organize
sure
that,
we do
can't we?
that.
So yeah.
Oh, that's right. I was also going to show you one last slide. Let's see, so you can take a look. There's some there's some references on here. Our film poster. Trying to make it. There we go. Did it show up?
You just click.
Just for a
click,
second, we
click,
lost it.
Click. There we. You just need to go back a slide.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
So there's a number of articles here, not the one that I'm going to send you. I'll send that separately. There's a number of articles and books that you can take a look at. That QR code, I think, takes you to the website so you can see references, projects, the film. It's all on there.
Thank you. Thank you. David Morelli, have you got a question about love?
Yes. And who knows if this is able to be fit into the time that we have, but when I looked out the window, what I saw was that love, in a way, is trying to emerge within, I think, each person. There's a fundamental desire for that love. And yet, in some ways, it seems that we block our receptivity and expression of that love with a degree of selfishness of trying to get our needs met, and sometimes then seeing others as barriers to us getting love. And in fact, it seems like it's the exchange of love that we seek that requires a two-way street, or opening, if you will. And I just love any thoughts or reflections from you on that topic, if there's anything that's relevant.
Oh boy, there is. All three leaders have shown me what love looks like in leadership. And my favorite quote is by Alan, and it's one of the principles that he was raised in by his parents. One of my very favorites of all time. I tell it to everybody I possibly can, and I live it as best I possibly can. And it is love and be loved in that order. So no matter what anybody else does or says or whatever it is. I'm not waiting for someone to love me before I show it. Love and be loved in that order. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Well, I think that's a fine place to stop. Sarah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And thank you to all of you as well. These masterclasses that we've been running for 6 or 7 months now have really been quite amazing. And it's nothing to do with me, it's all to do with you. And you bring such energy and positivity and friendship and love to these monthly meetings. So thank you to all of you.
CoEfficient, helping people help people.